My dad will never know what I saw in the basement. As a child, I loved the basement. There was a work table for me and a couch for my dad. We often spent many nights watching movies while we ate popcorn. I miss those simple days. Yet one night, things changed. He told me that we weren't watching movies in the basement anymore, that we hadn't moved to the living room. Of course, any child would be upset and argue, but I didn't. I'd like to think that I was an obedient child, but I don't think that was the case. At least, not this time. From that day, the basement was rarely used at night, even when we got cats. Their litter box was in the laundry room, which wasn't even 3 steps away from the steps. But they never used it. Eventually, we had to move it upstairs as they began to use the couch as their new litter box. We never got the smell out. I'll admit that when we made that change, I was scared of the basement. With the sun out, I still would get a chill down my spine that something is not right, that I need to go, get out of here, and find comfort in my bed. I don't remember much, but my parents caught me standing at the top of the steps once. I had a flashlight in my hands. I'd shine that light down the stairs and just stand there. Even when the battery died, I would just stand and stare into the darkness for God knows how long. It came to a head when my dad caught me standing at the bottom of the steps without a flashlight. We had 2 cats at the time, and both were yowling and hissing for me to come back, that it wasn't safe for me. The next morning, he put a door in the entrance just so I wouldn't be able to enter. And it worked. I didn't stand in the entryway anymore, and the cats didn't have to scream their hearts out to get someone's attention. As I've gotten older, the basement door was removed and things seemed to relax. The litter box was put back down there, and the cats seemed to have no issues. The movie nights had resumed, and the popcorn had never tasted sweeter. Though, we had been finding that a few bags had gone missing. It is what it is. Pets were added to the family as the years went on, and cameras had to be put up as a result. We all left home during the day, and we wanted to make sure all was well. I don't remember when it happened, but the closest thing I have is when I had gotten home from school. The door was back, and the litter box was moved back upstairs. I figured that the dogs had been going downstairs and used the clean floors as the perfect place to pee and maybe disturb the litter box. My dad confirmed those suspicions with a video to prove it. The odd thing was, he said the movies had to continue upstairs again, and this time, I argued. We argued about it for days, but he was stern on his resolve. He even put a lock on the door just so I wouldn't go down there during the night hours. Of course, I tried to reason with him, but no matter how hard I begged, he just refused. My late night crafting sessions were cut short. Any laundry that needed to be done would only be done during the day, and no animals were allowed downstairs. It was so odd seeing him move all of his things upstairs, considering he didn't do it the first time. It had gotten so bad that my mom made him put his 200 plus movie collection back down there just so he had room to sit in the living room. The biggest issue of all was his face. My dad was in the Air Force and had seen some things on the field, yet this was affecting him more. He looked pale in the first week of this. He was always on edge. The main door is right in front of the basement, and every time he went to leave, he would just stare at that basement door for a moment or two. His eyes never left that door handle until he deemed it safe. And that's when I started getting nosy. No, I'm not a privacy intruding person. I won't dig unless asked. But whatever had been happening in the basement was freaking out my dad. Badly. He had all the cameras down there, and they were all connected to his phone. I just needed the sharing QR code to get there and see what he sees. Honestly, that was the hardest part. Getting his phone away from him. He had always had it by his side when that door went up. It was basically a part of him. I watched his schedule for a few weeks, taking notes when he would leave his phone only for a moment, as well as his newest password. My efforts paid off when he took a shower that I was the cause of. I had so accidentally spilled some paint on him that needed to be washed off. But I knew he would be quick. As fast as I had scanned the code, did the sound of running water stop and the curtains slide to the side. I had what I needed, though. He made a habit of deleting any video that was sent to him only saving a few, such as a cat chasing another or me grabbing something from the pantry down below. Every day that passed, he seemed to grow more and more spooked, as if he was just waiting for something to happen. Day after day, the camera showed nothing, not even the dust that floated by. But one night, something did happen. My dad hadn't been able to do the laundry that morning. He refused to let me do it for him, and it came to bite him. He almost ran up the steps without the basket. The close down time was coming, and he knew it. Of course, I had gotten the notification that he was down there, but I didn't act on it. He would delete that later. However, as the night had started, I heard one of the dogs get out of the bed and head towards the kitchen. They always peed on the pillow pads Mom had left out for them, eat, drink, then return to bed. I ignored those sounds and continued to listen to my music and draw. After a while, I noticed that I had gotten a camera notification. Then another, and then another. At this time, we had 5 cats and 3 dogs, to which it was hard to keep track of them. I began to do a head count as usual, and I counted all 5 cats to my relief. However, I only counted 2 dogs. It was one of the more stubborn ones. She loved the basement and used it as her personal bathroom constantly. See, my dad was strict on the dogs using the basement. I knew he would get upset if she was down there and had peed on some of his ammo boxes. I didn't bother checking the cameras. I knew she was down there. The sound of her returning to bed didn't really slip my mind, but then again, I wasn't really listening for her. Grabbing the one flashlight I had, I made my way down to the basement door. Just as I guessed, it was cracked open enough for a small dog to pass through with some wiggle room. Mom owes me big time. I said that in my head as I opened the door. The creaking of the hinges had alerted my cats to my position in the house. And then the yowling began. They didn't start off quiet, rather they were as loud as if they were sounding for my dad to come get me. I didn't know why they were doing this, it's just the basement. I shined my flashlight down below, only seeing the doorway frame and one of the walls leading towards the man cave. I didn't realize it yet, but I'd been standing there for a while. And then it hit me. The basement was quiet. The dogs all had collars with their tags and names on it. Every time they moved, you would hear a metallic clanking sound when they walked. I heard nothing. I was straining my ears to hear something, even holding my breath, but I just heard my heart beat. Even with the cat's yowlings, I heard nothing. Something was wrong. With each step I took, I could hear my cat's yells less and less and less, as if I was miles away from them until I hit the bottom of the steps. I should have turned on the lights, but I didn't. Maybe I should have, but that might not have saved me. My flashlight was dull, not really helping me with my surroundings. Yes, I knew where to go as my foot hit the exposed pipe on the ground. I was in the center of the basement. My light kept shining all over the room. The usual coat rack was still there. The trash can full of lint was still there. Even the unopened boxes of litter were still there. Nothing's changed. I don't go in there often. The basement laundry room had a bathroom connected to it. The extra freezer and ammo station filled the small hallway that led to said bathroom. Towards the ceiling of the bathroom was a window that often gave the room some natural light. I used to love it as a kid. But tonight, the lights outside stayed away from our house, as if it knew something was wrong. I could barely see the green light of the camera in the corner of the hallway, but it was there, beeping like normal. I of course waved to it. I always did, considering I would watch the footage later. It made me laugh. I didn't move from where I was. My light was all I needed, and I looked around. Over and over again, my little light searched all over the room for this little dog, yet nothing was there. I couldn't see much, but it's hard to miss a white dog in a dark room. They stand out. Maybe she was deeper. Maybe she was under the reloading bench? I had only taken a few steps before my toes touched something wet. Pee. It had to be pee. Right. She must have peed and left. I came all the way down here just to step and pee. At this point, I was fed up with it all. The dog breaking into the basement, me stepping in pee, and my cat still screaming at the top of the steps for me to return. At this point, I had given up trying to be nice to my mom and her dogs. letting them suffer the punishment in the morning. With a sigh, I turned around and finally began my journey back to those dreadful stairs. Finally, I had just started the first step when the cats stopped yelling. They were all there at the top, looking down at me. Of course, I thought they were happy that their servant had listened to their cries and returned. Metallic clinking of a dog's collar could be heard in the hall. Each dog had their own specific way of walking. The taller one took longer steps with less clinking. The middle height one would make a clink here and there, but the little one would have that clinking sound constantly. I listened. Clink. Clink, clink. 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 That wasn't the steps of the little dog. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong, and I needed to leave. I didn't hesitate getting up those steps and joining my cats on the ground floor. That's when the clinking stopped. I shouldn't have looked. I should have closed and locked the door, but I didn't.
Oh my god. Oh my
I
god.
regret it. Eyes looked up at me. Eyes that fit no man or animal. Mom was distraught that her precious dog was missing, blaming me for not watching her while she used the bathroom in the backyard last night. I didn't say a word as she yelled and yelled. The story was that I had went to get something from the fridge while the dog was peeing. I came back and she was gone. Dad was forced to reinforce some of the weak points of the fence while Mom printed out missing papers of her lost dog. For once, Dad wasn't sure what happened. There was no footage for him to view, and there never will be. We moved out of that house a few months later due to the area being dangerous for dogs. We never found the missing one. Our new house doesn't even have a basement, so there was no need for a door and cameras this time around. With a new man cave in the garage, we were able to watch movies again, and I swear the popcorn tastes so much better when you got a good movie and your dad watching right next to you. But it's been years since we had moved from that house. My mom never forgave me for what I did. Honestly, the only thing that I care about is my dad never knowing what happened. He will never know what happened that night. He will never know how the scratch marks got on the door, or that I spent the whole night scrubbing the blood off my foot and the floor once it was safe. He will never know how that thing looked right at the camera the whole time I was down there. My dad will never know what I saw in that basement.